Let's take a look at the geometric concepts you're going to have to know for physics. And firstly, here's basically all the shapes you're going to need to know a little something about. Now, the most important is the triangle. The other ones, I'm going to give you formulas for at the end of the video. Alright, so let's just focus on the triangle for right now. Now, this specifically is a right triangle. Why is it a right triangle? Well, one of the angles inside of the triangle measures 90 degrees. Now, if you're dealing with a right triangle, which almost all triangles in physics should be right triangles, we can use a very useful formula here, right? The Pythagorean Theorem. All right? And remember, the Pythagorean Theorem is the good old a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Well, that's great, but what's a, b, and c? Right? C is simply the hypotenuse. And remember, the hypotenuse of a right triangle is always opposite of the 90-degree angle. And the a and b just represent the two sides. It doesn't matter where you place them. So, as long as they're on the sides, of course. So why don't we just place the letters in our triangle? And this could be one arrangement. All right. Next thing we're going to discuss is then about the angles inside of that right triangle. Now, there's going to be two angles that you might not know, all right? And I'm going to call them theta 1 and theta 2. Now, remember, all the angles inside of a right triangle add up to 180 degrees. And what that means is I can create a simple formula here that theta 1 plus theta 2 plus that 90-degree angle has to equal 180. Now, notice algebraically here, I can simply subtract the 90 from both sides, and that would simply leave me then with theta 1 plus theta 2 must equal 90 degrees. Now, this is an important formula as well, and you want to memorize that too, along with the Pythagorean Theorem. All right? So why don't we just move this stuff out of the way, and let's take a look at a simple example. So here's your triangle, and you know two of the sides, and you want to find the third, namely C. Anytime you have a setup like this, you know two sides, you want to find the third, you're going to use Pythagorean Theorem. So we just have to identify what the 3 and 4 are, and they're basically the two sides, right? Because C represents the hypotenuse. So simply plug in 3 for, let's say, A, and then 4 for B, and then we're going to solve this thing for C. Doing some math on the left-hand side, right, we realize that that totals 25. And then to find C, we have to square root both sides, right? So that we arrive at an answer then of simply just 5. So C is equal to 5. And that's great. So why don't we put that 5 on in the triangle now? So we basically know all the sides. Now how about the angles? Well, if you know the sides of the triangle, you can also calculate the angles. Now that's actually trigonometry. Check out our video on trigonometry for physics for a very quick rundown on that. I'll leave a link in the description below. However, let's just assume that one of the angles in here is 37 degrees, which it approximately is. How could I find the missing angle on the top? Well, that's actually simple, right? If you remember this formula up here, right, theta 1 plus theta 2 is 90, and we plug in 37 for, let's say, theta 2, we know that then the balance, right, would be about 53, because they both have to add up to 90. So that should be fairly straightforward. That's basically all the geometry you're going to have to know for a right triangle, all right? So now, as promised, let me give you the formulas you probably will need for the other shapes. All right, so first we're dealing with a sphere here. You need to know the volume of a sphere. You might have to memorize it, or you might be given it on the test, but you should be aware of these formulas. And then also the surface area. Both are simply just functions of the radius. Simple. And then we can deal with the circle. The circumference of the circle is 2 pi r. The area is also pi r squared. Straightforward. We have a cylinder. You probably just have to know the volume of the cylinder, and that's your formula, pi r squared times the height. Then the next thing would be like a rectangle. By the way, squares fall under rectangles, so it would simply be just length times width. It doesn't matter if it's a rectangle that doesn't have, all sides equal, or it's a square that does have sides that are equal. It's still length times width. And then the last thing will be some type of rectangular prism. Again, it could be a cube where all the sides are equal or not, but you're simply just going to take length times width and multiply it by height. So these are probably the important formulas to know, and it should be fairly straightforward. These are probably just plug in, all right? So guys, I hope you took something away here. This is just a quick review of the important concepts. Remember, physics is difficult enough, so these concepts you want to make sure you know like the back of your hand before you approach then the physics aspect, so that you can focus on the physics rather than the math, so to speak. All right? So guys, thanks again for tuning in. Appreciate it very much. Please remember to help us out, help us grow. All right, subscribe, tell your friends. We appreciate it very much, and we look forward to helping you with more concepts. Take care.